Squiz Kids acknowledges the traditional owners of the lands on which we podcast, the Turrbal and Gadigal people.
Squiz Kids!
It's your daily news fix. Fun, free, fresh.
Hello and welcome to Squiz Kids Today, your fresh take on what's happening in the world around you. I'm Bryce Corbett. It's Wednesday, May 24. In Squiz Kids Today, Modi's rock star welcome. Italy's Mt Etna belches ash. Tigers lose their coach, and guess who's joining the NRL? That's what's making news, kids style.
The lowdown.
Indian Australians turned out in their thousands in Western Sydney last night as India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi kicked off his Australian visit. Some 20,000 Aussies with Indian heritage packed into Sydney Olympic Park to hear Prime Minister Modi speak and welcome him to our shores. A chartered Qantas flight, rebranded as Modi Airways, flew fans in from Melbourne, and Modi Express buses drove down from Queensland full of Indian Australians keen to see the Indian PM. It's his first visit down under for 9 years, and one in which all sorts of important conversations will take place between our own PM, Anthony Albanese, as part of what is called building diplomatic ties. So, what does that mean? It means finding things in common between our two countries and making plans to cooperate and interact and trade with one another. So, why is India a big deal? Because it's the world's largest democracy, and it has recently overtaken China to become the most populous country in the world, which is to say it has more people living in it than China does. How many people am I talking? 1.429 billion to be exact, and yes, that's billion with a B, whereas Australia's population is a relatively piddling 26 million, meaning that there are 54 times more people living in India than in Australia. My oh my.
Spin the globe.
Each day we give the world globe a spin and find a news story from wherever it stops. And today we've landed in Mexico and Italy, two countries on opposite sides of the earth where volcanoes have been erupting. Starting in Mexico, and remarkable time-lapse video has been released of a volcano close to the capital, Mexico City, which has been rumbling away for over a week now, spewing smoke and ash into the sky. The volcano there is one of the most active in the world, and schools located nearby have had to close down as fears grow that it could erupt. And that's exactly what has happened in Italy on the island of Sicily, where the famous volcano Mt Etna has been spewing smoke and ash into the sky. Etna threw up so much ash this week that a nearby airport had to be closed as the runway was covered with it. Two earthquakes on opposite sides of the earth. I wonder if the planet is trying to tell us something.
Sport time!
As New South Wales and Queensland whip themselves into a state of origin frenzy for the next week in the lead up to next Wednesday's game in Adelaide, there's an interesting rugby league development brewing to Australia's north. Our nearest neighbour, Papua New Guinea, may well be the 18th team to join the NRL, following a recent visit to Port Moresby, the PNG capital, by a delegation of NRL officials. Papua New Guinea loves its rugby league. They're mad for it. And an expansion of the competition into our near neighbour in the north would take to 3 the number of countries in which the NRL has a footprint, with New Zealand and its Warriors already on board. No longer on board, in other sporting news, is Richmond coach Damien Hardwick, who yesterday announced, after leading the Tigers to 3 premierships, he was resigning. Hardwick is the longest-serving Richmond coach, having been coach there for 14 years. He said he made the decision in the best interests of the club on account of the fact that the Tigers have only won 3 games this season. Go well, Damo.
Newshounds.
Every Wednesday, Squizzy the Newshound sticks his snout into Squiz Kids HQ to report back on fishy things he's sniffed out on the internet. And today, his nose is twitching after coming across a whole lot of fake AI-generated photos of an explosion next to the Pentagon in Washington. So, what's the Pentagon? It's a really important military building in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States of America. Fun fact, it's called the Pentagon because when you look at it from above, it's the shape of a pentagon. And what's AI? That stands for Artificial Intelligence. You see, technology has advanced so fast that these days anyone can manipulate photos to make it look like something has happened when really it hasn't. And yesterday, photos started circulating on social media of a large plume of smoke rising next to the Pentagon, suggesting that there'd been an explosion or an attack. Pentagon officials and the local fire department quickly assured reliable news agencies that there had not been an explosion and that the images were fake. But for a brief moment, people on the social media platform Twitter believed that the Pentagon was under attack. And that's not a good thing for people to believe for all sorts of reasons. It's another reminder to always do as Squizzy the Newshound says, and that's to stop, think, and check before believing everything you see, read, or hear on the internet. Check the source of information, or in this case, the photo. Stop before sharing it and think about who is giving you the information and what possible reason they might have for wanting you to believe something. And if you want to be among the 1,200 classrooms who have signed up to do Newshounds, our free media literacy course for primary school kids, head on over to squizkids.com.au and get involved.
Time for the quiz.
This is the part of the podcast where you get to test how well you've been listening. Question number 1. In which 2 countries are volcanoes spewing ash and smoke? Yeah, well done if you said Mexico and Italy. Question number 2. Which AFL team did Damien Hardwick coach for 14 years? Yep, that's right, it was the Richmond Tigers. Question number 3. The Prime Minister of which country received a raucous welcome in Sydney last night? Yes, of course, it was the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi.
Shout-outs.
It's May 24, birthday today for Olympic swimmer Emma McKeon, footy player and Brownlow medalist Lachie Neale, comedian Andy Lee, and it's also International Tiara Day. And yes, I'm wearing one as I speak. It's also a special day for these Squiz Kids celebrating a birthday today. Harry from Gundagai, Peyton from Foster, Matilda from Freshwater, Caleb from Bray Park, Nicoli from Lake Bolac, Sloane from Henley Beach, Sophia from Warrnambool, Albie and Fern from Frankston South, Rory from McLeod, Isabella from Brisbane, Temperance from Queanbeyan, Hanson Toe from Ryde, and Charles from Fig Tree. And a couple of belated shout-outs too today go to Margot and Achek from Andrews Farm, and Will and Hugh from Wombat. And yes, that is the name of a town in New South Wales. And as we continue to work our way through all of your many classroom shout-out requests, please be patient, we're getting to them as quickly as we can. It's a shout-out today to Class 5AH and Mrs. Harvey at Mount Carmel School in Yass. Class 4G and Mrs. Salmon at St Catherine Labor Catholic Primary School in Gymea. Class 5-6 Dingoes at Buxton Public School. Class UP and Miss Maynard at Spalding Primary School. Class Aurelia 1 with Mrs. Jurgens at Anne Hammersley Primary School in Ellenbrook. And finally, to Class G1 Blue Golds and Miss Rossback at Rocket Ship Public School on the Rising Stars campus in San Jose, California. What about that for a name for a school? Hello to you all over there in California. Don't forget, if you've got a birthday coming up and you want a shout out, or if you're after a classroom shout out, drop us a line at squizkids@thesquiz.com.au or fill out the form on our website. Well, that's all we have time for. Thanks for listening to Squiz Kids today. We'll be back again tomorrow. In the meantime, get out there and have a most excellent day. Over and out.